you actually are choosing to go to work. But just because you were employed 10 years ago and you say, oh, I have to go to work today, that's not true. But when you say I have to, your energy's low. It's not like I'm getting to go to work. I'm choosing to go to work. And I believe the way to lead others is to first lead yourself.
Welcome to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where real people share timeless ideas. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and in every episode we dive into the philosophies, quotes, points, and life lessons that shape how we live, think, and grow. No matter where you are in life, this show is here to remind you wisdom is everywhere, and it's always relatable most of the times. Hey, wow, welcome, Charlie. What's your name and what do you do?
Yeah. So Charlie Sheppard, I'm a professor. I teach leadership. I have an organizational development consulting company that I've been involved with for the last 4 decades. I've just started this year a university that's engineered doing executive MBAs at a low cost so that people around the world can come together. It's called WorldBridge University. And I also am a biotech co-founder, and we just
Wow.
got back on 2 weeks ago, Friday, which is extraordinary. We actually think we're going to make cancer survivable. So
Wow.
it works with every solid tumor. It's amazing. It won't eliminate the cancer. It'll just freeze the cancer where it's at. And so
Wow.
you'll everybody dies, but you'll die of old age, not from cancer.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow. Usually in my podcast, I would joke that cure cancer and this, and now I literally see someone who what they're doing is to save the world from cancer. Wow, that's fantastic.
We are making progress, and the data came back, even though it's preclinical, which means it's just in animals. It's extraordinary. And we actually, for the first time, got data back where we said, oh, this will be a drug. And we were excited. We started talking about how we think it'll revolutionize cancer treatment. And that's going to affect every family, because every family somehow is touched by cancer at some point in time. So we're excited. Anyway.
Yeah, wow. Thank you for doing what you do. And thank you for being on the podcast to have a chat with me this morning for me, but yeah, it's evening for you.
Evening for me. Yeah, it's in the evening. I live in California, just in Northern California, north of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah, but just to be clear, you're still in Wednesday, right?
It's in the morning. Yeah, I mean the evening. It's 9:40 p.m.
No, like you're still in Wednesday or you're in Thursday. What day is it for you?
Oh, what day is it? Yeah, no, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay. The Australians, they are like evening Thursday. Wow, okay.
Yeah, no, we're still Wednesday.
Yeah, what's the quote you want to share with me today?
So, it really is something that's affected my whole life, and I guess the backstory is, so I'm a professor of leadership. I did a 2-week leadership retreat where we put as much cutting edge content into the training as we could. And we did 360s on all the executives. It was a residential 2 weeks, and we surveyed the 360s afterwards. And what we discovered was the people that needed the training the least embraced it the most, and the people that needed it the most embraced it the least. So as a leadership professor at that time, what people would use as a contrast to leadership, they'd say, here's what a manager is and here's what a leader is. So they would contrast manager to leader. And I came up with the idea that you shouldn't contrast leadership with management, because good managers and good leaders have very similar characteristics. The better contrast is to contrast leadership with drama. And so I came up with the idea of management's not the opposite of leadership, but drama is. And I say this all the time. And drama comes as standard equipment with every human being, and leadership is optional. And to be quite honest, leadership is a choice. So that's the course that I've been teaching for over 3 decades now inside of corporations, that leadership is a choice, and it's not the great event that creates leaders. You're not born as a leader. You actually have to choose to be a leader. So it's a perfect metaphor for everybody inside of their life, because you can't lead others until you lead yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like you can't, uh, you, I want us to take it step by step, right? Before I even start asking, what do you mean by leadership is choice and all that? What is drama in this context? What is drama? Are we talking about the movies?
Yeah, so actually we are talking about the movies, but it's a little bit different. So the original research about the drama triangle came from Cartman, who actually looked at script analysis. So in scripts, you would have a bad guy, right? You would
Yeah.
have the hero and you would have
Yeah.
a victim. And so Cartman took that triangle into family therapy and shifted it to, well, in family therapy, you have individuals in the family that are the victim. You have the persecutor and the rescuer. And persecutor is a language that's a little bit strong for the corporate environment. So I changed it to adversary, rescuer, and victim. And inside of that conversation, my definition of drama is that it takes energy out of the environment. The function of drama is to create more drama.
Mm.
Anybody who's in the drama triangle wants to have you join them in the drama triangle. And it comes as standard equipment for every human being. There isn't a single human being that doesn't have some aspect or a reference for drama in their life. The leadership phenomenon, which is the exact opposite. So if you're in the victim role, what you need is a vision. If you're in the adversary role, you need to learn how to become a catalyst. If you're in the rescue, you actually have to know how to coach people. And so the function of leadership is to create more leaders, and it's a positive energy. You can feel it. When somebody's leading and truly leading and has a compelling vision, there's an energy that goes with it. When somebody's in the drama triangle, their sole function is to get you to join in with them. And so my definition of drama is those conversations that take energy out of the environment. And my definition of leadership is those conversations and actions that put energy into the environment.
You started the conversation with leadership is a choice. And before I ask you to explain what that means, there's something I noticed, and it's just my brain noticed the pattern, and I'm just going to point it out. It's your surname is Shepherd, and when you say Shepherd, what I think of is a shepherd, and a shepherd is one in most um stories is a symbol of a leader, leading the sheep, to greener pastures and all that. And that's your
Yeah.
surname, and you're a professor of leadership. What's going on here?
Well, it is. I mean, so one, I've been exposed to great examples of leadership. I've
Oh,
been able to work with CEOs, but also in my family, my dad was an extraordinary leader. And so I had this opportunity very early in life. I started my own company in the consulting world when I was 26, which was crazy when I think back on it. Like
yeah.
the hubris, the kid that, started his own. But what happens for me, and it happened for me in writing this last book that I did on climate change, Get Off the Fence, I found that I was in a conversation with somebody who was denying climate change. And I found myself that I felt like a victim. It felt like climate was too big to tackle. It felt like I couldn't make a difference. I couldn't shift the narrative around climate. And that's the victim role, right? It's too big, too large. And so I needed to create a compelling vision for myself. And I have it. And finally, is my job, partly, is to get 8 billion people to make climate one of their number one issues.
Yeah.
So once I had that, I'm out of the victim role, and now I've got visionary. Now I'm actually a catalyst. I'm working with people who are in Earth's advertising agency, the Potential Energy Coalition. They're doing amazing work. And so whenever you find yourself in the victim role, for me anyway, I sit there and I go, oh, how do I shift the narrative? And then I've got to partner with people. And partnering is such a big part. My company's name is called Shepherd Partners, and it's, again, I partner. And I had a
Yes.
friend of mine that just over this summer when I was on holiday, I had a friend that asked me, because I do a lot of coaching and executive coaching, and he asked me, could you teach my artificial intelligence how to ask great questions?
Oh,
And it was like, okay. And part of my background is linguistics. Part of my background is hypnosis, and so I understand the deep structure of language, and I started to think about it, and I went, well, you can't ask a great question if you can't hear what's being said, and you can't hear what's being said unless you can make distinctions. So much like the distinction between drama and leadership, you asked, right? Okay, how do you define drama?
Drama.
I'm making a distinction. So I ended up writing a book that has over 500 distinctions in it and 1,500 questions. So my goal was, I'm going to make an AI smarter, but as it turns out, I think I can make any human being smarter. I think if you go through and learn these 500 distinctions and you ask yourself these 1,500 questions, I can't imagine how somebody, I'm basically compacting what I've done over 4 decades in learning into a book, but the book it's got concepts in it because there's over 500 distinctions, but it makes you think because I've got questions to foster thinking. So I don't know if I'm going to end up titling the book this because it's still in process, but it's the architecture of transformation. I don't know, but no matter what, I'm giving it to the AI next week. So we'll see if it makes the AI smarter, but I hope it'll make humans smarter also. That's kind of the goal in the.
That's a lot. It's a lot to work with, and it's like, usually one of the things, since we're talking about leadership, is that sometimes, right? And I'll come back to leadership as a choice. Sometimes people, quote unquote, leaders, right? They give people projects, they give people things to work on, right? But they don't set them up for success, right? It's as if they set them up to fail, right? And then,
Yep.
you understand what I'm saying? And those persons fail, and then they start saying, "Oh, you're terrible. Well, are you this? What do you mean by right?" And like, this is so simple. How would you know? Why would you do this? And it leads to the people feeling bad about themselves, the victim.
Well, and that's where the job of the leader, my job is to set you up for success, which means I need to give you the tools to be successful. I need to give you clarity. One of the behaviors that I do to make sure that I'm clear is I'll give somebody an assignment and then I'll ask this very simple question. I'm not always as clear as I think that I am. Can you tell me back what you just heard me request? In the act of asking a question at the other end, I close the loop. Because there are times, let me tell you, Wisdom, I think I'm so clear. And I find out over and over again that what they tell me back is nowhere near what I said, but then that lets us have a conversation. So I'm able to then set them up for success. I think the other idea that we use in my company is minimum viable product, the MVP. I'm big on the MVP. So now once you've heard the request, don't go off and try and give me what you think is perfect. Give me a minimum viable product. And if you give me an MVP, then we can adjust. It lets the iterative process. I'm a big proponent of collective wisdom. So how do we all participate in refining the idea? Because I may see something, I may have requested something of you. I see the work and I go, oh, I want something different, right? Because the work may have spontaneously created the next idea in me or in you. And then we can kind of iterate as we go forward. So minimal viable product. The MVP is a great way of setting people up for success and keeping them from going into the drama triangle.
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join. Or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, when you mentioned the drama triangle, right, there was something you mentioned, and I was asking, and then, I'm glad I remember now. And that was, you mentioned 3 parts. You mentioned the adversary, the rescuer, and the victim. And you said that the job of the people who in the drama circle is to get you into the drama circle. But I was like, I thought the rescuer is the good guy.
No, not in this way. Now, look, the rescuer is, so I use the example. I used to be an emergency medical technician, so I was a first
Okay.
responder in college. So I'm not talking about the kind of rescuing that if somebody were to have a heart attack, I will go save them.
Yeah, you rescue them. Yeah.
But if I do your work for you, or say I have a piece of feedback to give you wisdom and I don't give it to you, then I'm rescuing you from that feedback. And watch what happens. I have to go, oh, wisdom can't handle the truth. He's not ready to grow. So now I've done all these things where I've kind of go, oh, shoot, it's just easier for me than to try and explain it. I'll just do the work myself. And then they become martyrs. They go, oh, my work-life balance is out of whack. And then they'll quickly go to either the victim or the adversary. So that rescuer is not the good guy. It's somebody who avoids giving other people feedback. They're so nice, but they're not real, right? They have the perception, but they don't vocalize it. They're going to
They rather look good than do good.
So what happens is it creates the pattern where you start setting up this drama pattern where people go from the roles to the adversary, to the victim, to the rescuer, and back and forth. And that's what I mean. The function is to get other people to join in. So say you and I work for a boss. And I go to you, wisdom, and I go, gosh, do you see what the boss is doing to us? Can't you, man, I can't believe what an idiot that guy is. I'm trying to enroll you into you being powerless also. So this is what creates dysfunctional organizations. And so it becomes very easy for us to shift the pattern once we get more and more aware of that pattern inside organizations. Fundamentally, can alter the DNA of the culture. One of the things that the research has shown that if you're sitting next to somebody who's creating drama, not only are they a low performer correlated, but just you being in their presence, your performance will go down also. And it happens so much faster. Drama in an organization happens faster than leadership as far as spreading in the culture. So it becomes really important to kind of architect out the shadow culture inside of any organization.
Yeah. At the beginning, you mentioned that leadership is not the opposite of management. But are they different? And what's the difference between management and leadership?
Well, I don't really ever talk about it because I think it's dated theory. But the idea was that a manager's telling you what to do and managing your resources, where the leader is creating the compelling vision. I don't ascribe to that being a good contrast, because if you get to the behaviors of good managers and you get to the behaviors of good leaders, the behaviors are almost identical. So I, for one, it's in a lot of, I think it was originally, I shouldn't throw the person under the bus, but it was in some older books and it caught fire, right?
I think I know who you're about to mention, but I won't mention his name.
There's no reason to mention it.
Okay, it's all right.
I just have a more modern, in my mind, there's a more modern approach and a better distinction. And the other thing is the drama versus leadership distinction is really useful for doing self-diagnosis, not other. If I sit there and I go, oh, look at wisdoms in the drama triangle, that's not how we apply the tool. The best way to apply the tool is to go, oh, I'm stuck. I'm in drama. I'm having some challenges right now. And so it's a way of taking a look at how you can get your own energy. And here's the piece around the quote. You asked me about my favorite quote, and in some ways it's leadership is a choice, because I'm saying everything about leadership that I believe. I don't know if you've ever said this before, Wisdom, but have you ever mentioned, I have to go to work today? And that's actually a false construct of the mind, right? You don't have to. You actually are choosing to go to work, but just because you were employed 10 years ago and you say, oh, I have to go to work today, that's not true. But when you say I have to, your energy is low. It's not like I'm getting to go to work. I'm choosing to go to work. And I believe the way to lead others is to first lead yourself. And to lead yourself, you got to generate energy. And if you're having to do something, there's no way, I have to go do this and have energy, right?
Yeah. I like that concept.
Good.
Drama. And earlier on I was talking to someone and I said that there's culture everywhere. It's just a question of as long as where two or three persons are gathered, there's culture. It's just a question of what kind of culture that it is. And when people say we are building the culture, what they are simply saying is that we're trying to be intentional about the culture that is in the company. Because whether you build or you don't build culture, there will always be culture there. And when you just mentioned this drama, it just reminded me of what bad culture looks like. So
Yeah.
that's basically, you just defined it.
If you get a lot of people in the drama triangle, right?
Yeah.
It creates a culture that then you have to eliminate that as a culture because you can only get high performance in the leadership culture versus the drama culture.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I've translated the course into 13 different languages, and I've been a professor at an international business school where we've had students from 99 different countries, including Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I can tell you definitively, drama exists on every continent in the world.
Of
It's a
course.
human, it's a human pattern, and so learning how to shift it, um, and you know that's where I wrote "Save Your Drama for Your Mama" as a book, and I am finally writing. I mean, there's a textbook that I have called "Leadership as a Choice," but I'm finally writing the. I'm finally going to write the.
That's the back. Is that the back or is that the front?
No, this is the back. These are all the
Okay.
behavior.
Okay.
It just kind of gets you just so that you can
Or
see it.
is this the book you are feeding into AI, or this is a different one?
No, I'm writing another book. It's called
Okay.
Leadership as a Choice, but this
Okay.
is the one. But there you
Wow.
go.
Wow.
There's a
Oh,
leadership
that's
triangle.
the drama triangle. The leadership has its own triangle. I know we're short on time, but I'm curious to know.
Well, the leadership triangle, first and foremost, you have to create a compelling vision, right? And that was for me when I found myself in the drama triangle, right? I'm promoting everything here, but you know, get off the fence was all about climate change and systems thinking. And so the idea behind this was first and foremost, I needed to have a compelling vision for what the future is. And I wanted to make climate the number one political issue in every country and every political party. So get off the fence was my version of having a compelling vision to try and change uh, the world's thinking around climate. And this is systems thinking. And I just went to what are my superpowers? One, I know how to tell a story. Two, I know how to write. Three, I understand systems thinking. And so there's no larger system than the environmental system. So I use it as a way to teach systems thinking and
Yeah.
and putting together all the different things. So I believe everybody has a superpower. They've got to use theirs to make a difference.
Oh, thank you so much. You just shared with us that leadership is a choice, and the opposite of leadership is drama. Oh, that's one thing I'll remember. It's stuck in my head right now. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm glad that we got to have this conversation. You've mentioned some books and you've mentioned some concepts that I, for one, would love to, go check out and learn more about. Where can we? What's like the one-stop shop where you can just go and see
Amazon.
everything? Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
if you go to Amazon, you go to Charlie Sheppard. I've made the you can buy the ebook for Get Off the Fence for 99 cents. So the only thing I ask for is 5-star reviews. We got to get the word
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and Save Your Drama for Your Mama has a physical copy to it. It's POD now. I published that in 2011. There's a lot of used hardbacks out there, but I'm basically just selling it soft cover. You know, we're coming out with version 2 this year, so I've updated the book, so it'll be coming
Yeah.
on.
That would be lovely. That would
Yeah,
be
go to
lovely. Wow.
Amazon. You can find me on LinkedIn, and if people are looking to kind of shift their culture, gosh, I do so many things: influencing with integrity, leadership is a choice, principled negotiations, compelling partnerships for union and management. I've been doing this for a long time, Wisdom. So if people need help unlocking the full potential of their teams and organizations, or they're interested in our executive MBA, we do an executive MBA where it's 240 10-minute lessons every morning. It's the
Oh,
daily MBA, and it's a very
wow.
time efficient way of getting an MBA. We
Wow.
use AI and social learning.
Oh, that's brilliant. So where can we learn about this daily MBA?
Yeah, I can send you if you want to put it on the post, but it's World Bridge U. So World Bridge University is where the daily EMBA is. Shepherd Partners is where I'm at in my consulting company. Arjuna Therapeutics is where my biotech company is. And you can buy the book, Get Off the Fence, and Save Your Drama for Your
Yeah,
Mama
on
on it.
Amazon. Yeah, yeah. I'll put the names and the links you just mentioned in the description and in the show notes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Well, what a pleasure. Nice to meet you, Wisdom.
Yeah,
Congratulations
same
on
here.
this.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatablewisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.